Hey everyone. So I've been thinking about this topic for a little while, and it's come up a lot with a lot of my athletes who are trying to get from that intermediate to that advanced or even advanced to world class stage in powerlifting. And the topic is about accessory training, or if you're not familiar with a powerlifting context, accessories is any lift besides the squat, bench press, and deadlift that can contribute to your muscle growth and your progress. So, my thoughts on this were about a couple of things. Um, One of them is effort, and another one of them is biomechanics and how to execute the movements. And both those two things are something that not a lot of people have a grasp on who haven't been through a bodybuilding phase or bodybuilding background. So, effort. If you are given within a normal training program your traditional 3 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 8 to 12, there's a good chance that unless you did a lot of physical activity when you were younger or a lot of sports, you don't really know how to go truly to failure with a given range of motion. And even if you did do those things, you might just not know how to get there within that range of motion, keeping mechanical tension on the muscle, which is one of the biggest drivers of a hypertrophy. It's going to be that mechanical tension that you can maintain on that given area. So, with bodybuilding training, there are specific strategies that people use beyond the point of the original form breakdown to keep the tension on those muscle groups. And I want to run through just a couple of the examples of this because that's one way that you can get a lot more out of your accessory training to create more real estate on your body or more muscle mass that you can fill in with strength on those main lifts. Now, the effort part is what I want to talk about first, and a good strategy to really teach yourself how to do that effort. And of course, form is a prerequisite. You need to know like how to do the perfect like strict form, or at least within 90% of that. But instead of your 3 sets of 8 to 12, what you want to do is, if you're a coach, you want to start your athlete with a set until failure, an AMRAP. So that way, when they start it, they're going to have a very good gauge for where their endpoint is with what they can tolerate with that form and mechanical tension on the muscle before they go on to the following sets in the program or for yourself. And then after you were to do that AMRAP, then you would go to your remaining 2 or 3 sets, or how many ever sets you're going to do. I'd recommend 2 to 3, maybe even a singular set afterwards. And you're going to do your traditional rep range after that. You could do your 8 to 12, your set of 15 if it's like a more of an isolation movement that doesn't have like a whole lot of range of motion. All right, so the next part of this is learning bodybuilding strategies on how to take yourself past that point of technical breakdown where you can still get benefit out of the movement. And this is going to be really important because effort and mechanical tension are the biggest drivers of hypertrophy. And you'll get to a point where it's just going to be hard to progress if you're trying to get the full range of motion on everything, because certain parts of your body will give out before you can truly get the benefit of burning out every single one of those muscle fibers. And a really good example of this is when you're doing your rowing movements. At a certain point, you're going to start, your arms are not going to be able to bend all the way. Your biceps are going to be failing first. And you're going to start having to, cheat the weight a little bit by using your legs to help you if it's like a cable row. But when the cheating starts to get a bit egregious and you're just starting to heave, a strategy at that point to take it even further to failure is simply keep your arms very slightly bent and retract. Let it come all the way forward. Retract. Let it come all the way forward. And that's going to target that upper back area a lot closer to failure than your arms will ever get it to when you're doing those rows. And it's still keeping the mechanical tension on the back because you are lengthening and retracting, which is the entire function of how the back is used during a row. Another really good strategy is at the end range of motion for some of those isolations, like maybe like overhead tricep extensions or something. You can pulse it at the very end and just keep doing like those half reps until you can barely move it. Like sometimes I'm only moving it like just this much, and I found that a lot of my athletes get better hypertrophy results from just taking it to that very close end where they can not even move if it's a safe enough movement to do so. And that's going to take awareness on your part as well, but that's why you want to study the form. You want to have at least one type of set until failure. It could be the beginning set, the end set, something like that, to gauge where you know you're going to be able to have that reference point for the day, so you can accurately plan out the ballpark you need to be in. Because so many times, more often than not, I'll see people, my athletes especially, they might have like another 5 reps in the tank, especially the newer ones, and they just don't know. So it's essential to really try and take that time to define what your effort level can be. And then you have all these little subcategories like the pulsing, doing a little bit of mild cheat reps depending on the movement, that can help you take it even further to increase that muscle damage and get as much growth as possible. All right, before I close out the video, I want to talk about a few additional strategies for increasing the muscle growth. So typically, like using those little pulsing movements I was talking about, like especially in like a curl or something, or like an extension, usually that's going to be better for squeeze-based exercises. Like I'd say mostly like curling variations. I don't see like a lot of people doing it. Like if you were to brace your elbow against like the back of the rack and you're doing your full range, and then you're just getting to the point where you're just pulsing it like barely at the bottom, that's going to be a good strategy for those type of movements. For things that are more stretch based, like let's just use curls for an example again. Incline curls, where you're lengthening your hand as far away from your shoulder as you can. You want to not end the rep here. You can get more by, if you're finishing the rep at the bottom, then you can use the other hand to put the weight down, or however you're going to do it. But that's a little way to sneak in some extra hypertrophy past the point where it's like you didn't have to complete the rep, but you got some extra work at the end, because every single rep or motion past that past like the first gets more and more stimulating, or the closer to failure you get, it gets more stimulating. And then this next one is one that I don't hear to talk about a lot, but on movements that are really hard to progress or overload, like super isolation movements, like I don't know, like a Y raise or something like that, where you got like a cable and it's going in front of you and you're trying to target like your shoulders and your mid back, or lateral raises, or really like any of the shoulder isolations like rear delt flies or face pulls or something like that. Sometimes you just can't get enough meaningful workload in a single set to failure, because it's just such a small range of motion, small amount of weight. So what you want to do for those cases is just put on your headphones, crank it up, whatever you got to do, and set a timer and just do as many reps as humanly possible within that time, like rest pause style. Like you might set it for like 5 minutes and you're doing rear delt flies. You're gonna be going to failure for as much as you can, using like a little bit of cheat reps, even just like pulsing it at the bottom. And then you might stand around for a few seconds and keep going, and then just keep going until you get to the very end of that 5 minutes. And by then you've accumulated so much workload on that small range of motion, small area, that rear delt's going to be pretty big. So I think that's a really good strategy. You definitely don't want to do that on a stretch-based movement, though. For stretch-based movements, you don't necessarily have to do... I would actually recommend against doing the pulsing. So understanding your movement category is going to be important too. Like anything that's a stretch base or like a big compound movement that uses a lot of muscle groups that can be very fatiguing, these strategies might not apply to as much. But anything where you have stability or it's just low injury risk where you're not in an exposed, dangerous position, that's what these strategies are going to apply to a lot more. And then a final caveat I want to mention is you do not have to do a lot of sets like this in order to get a lot of stimulus, unless it might be the case of, you know, like the rear delt flies like I was talking about before, or maybe like the side raises. But most of the time, if you're going this hard on your sets, 2 to 3 should be enough. I'd even argue that 2 is probably enough if you're really taking it that far. Well, I hope all that made sense for you guys. I hope this video was useful. Let me know if you have any questions down below. And yeah, I'll tune in next time. I'll be trying to put out some content as I just go along, have ideas, usually inspired by my athletes or my own training. But I'm always open to suggestions. So thanks for stopping by.